If you've talked to anyone, anywhere, at school, at work, even at home, you probably know by now that human relationships are complicated. We misunderstand each other, misinterpret each other's emotions, and can sometimes feel like no one understands ours. The truth is, as humans, we aren't always great at reading each other's emotions. But what if there was someone who understood you completely, comforted you through everything, and had nothing except affection to give? Hi there, my name is Raghav, and today I'd like to talk about the underappreciated superheroes of today's society, including my own personal one. Meet my dog, Percy. He's a Labrador Retriever. My family and I adopted him back in 5th grade, and he's been our loyal companion ever since. Now, I'm in 9th grade, and my journey here could not have been possible without him. He's always been a constant in my life, from the point when he joined my family, no matter what challenges I faced. While thinking about this fact, I began to reflect on how, as humans, we often take our natural best friends for granted. I always assumed he'd be there for me, and he always was, being able to comfort me through any situation. But going through many of these scenarios made me wonder, how does my dog know exactly how to react? How does he read my emotions so seamlessly? Does he even read my emotions at all? That's when I decided to find out the real science behind these questions. As I began my research into this topic, I found that there are many myths relating to it, so let's clear the main ones up. Humans and dogs have been best friends for centuries. Out of this fact, we get our first myth. An extremely common belief is that humans and dogs, due to said bonds, share the exact same emotions, meaning dogs can recognize the same human emotions because they feel the exact same biological emotions. This explanation is partially correct, but has a completely wrong core meaning. It's imperative to remember that dogs have completely different biological emotions when compared to humans. Myth number 2, one that is way more wrong, is that dogs use telepathy, or magic, to read our minds. And believe it or not, around 52% of dog owners believe this. The reason for these myths, well, existing, is the fact that, since we can't talk to dogs, we cannot understand them well enough. This is also due to anthropomorphism, the human tendency to project our emotions onto dogs instead of looking for the correct cues. In this case, canine cues. So far, I presented you all with statements proving common beliefs to be completely false. So you might be wondering, how do dogs really sense and react to a human's emotions? Well, their so-called emotion sensing consists of 3 main methods. First, dogs can read human facial expressions. This is because, for the most part, domesticated dogs live in a mixed species group. They're evolved to be able to do this because of that exact reason. They, over time, adjusted to their interspecies family life. There's proof of this evolution as well. From a young age, dogs are extremely attentive towards gestures such as pointing or looking in a specific direction. I, myself, have noticed this with my dog, as somehow he learned how to discern where he wants him to go based on where we point, and we did not teach him that. Researchers from the University of Lincoln figured this out through experimentation in 2016. Scientists presented 17 dogs with emotional facial images paired with vocal sounds to see which face the dogs would pick. The study shows that the dogs stared significantly longer at the face matching to the vocal sound, proving that dogs have evolved to recognize facial cues. Now, as most of you know, dogs have an extremely keen sense of smell. This is utilized in the second way dogs recognize emotion, smelling emotion. When humans experience an emotion, they produce a faint odor specific to that emotion. These odors aren't detectable by humans, but the chemical detectors contained in them are very detectable by dogs. For example, there's a recent study in which dogs can smell the stress of a human, specifically the steroid hormone cortisol. Basically, the more you're stressed, the more cortisol is produced. And when dogs detect this change in cortisol, it affects them deeply, changing their behavior to be more pessimistic. This specific study from 2024 proves this by having 16 dogs accustomed to a specific placement of food bowls. When exposed to relaxed smells, the dogs do their normal thing, going up to the correct food bowl. But when exposed to stress smells, the dogs are more hesitant in going up to the correct food bowl. They're worried that the food will be missing. So remember, dogs are extremely affected by how you feel as well. This, again, is a common thing most dog owners recognize. I myself have a pretty prominent memory of this tendency. Around half a year ago, in October 2025, I was working on a lab write-up for my biology class. I had just completed it that same morning, forgetting to back it up. But we had a period in class to complete it, so I wasn't worried. After I had reached home and completed all of my work, it was around 11 p.m. I was tired, and I just realized I hadn't submitted my write-up yet. When I went to go do just that, I realized that it was missing, deleted again when clearing up my tabs. As one could imagine, my emotions were at an all-time high. I was angry, of course, but most of all, I was stressed. Suddenly, my dog pushed open my door and licked my face, ensuring that I was okay. Once he got into the room, he knew how to react because he smelled my stress. But why did he come running into the room in the first place? Well, I may have cried out in anger when I realized my stupidity, causing him to hear that. Oh, and yes, dogs can use hearing to recognize emotion as well. Specifically, it is the tone of our voices. As I've stated before, dogs can recognize specific vocal sounds and tie them to the exact same emotion in a similar way to facial expressions. That's why your dog comes running to you if you cry out in pain. They know why you're making that specific sound. This can be derived from kind of reversing the first experiment I referenced. Dogs use all three of these methods combined to sense and react to our emotions. This three-part system ensures that they can do it seamlessly as well, explaining every instance of a dog being able to comfort their human companions. Of course, all dogs aren't the same. For example, a bloodhound would use smell more, and a Labrador Retriever, like my dog, would use hearing more. So how is the knowledge of this information used in the real world for the good of both humanity, for the good of humanity? Well, the most impactful way is therapy dogs. Humans with specific disorders, some being ADHD, PTSD, autism, anxiety, etc., need a companion that can understand them with the utmost certainty at all times. Dogs are perfect for such roles, due to their connectedness with humans without any training. But what if you don't have a dog? Well, first of all, you should consider getting one. I could tell you a million reasons why you should. They're that amazing. But if that's not for you, I understand. Regardless, I have a message for you all. The next time you encounter someone or something you think you understand, don't forget to do the research. There's always a story beyond what the eye can see. Do what I did. Find a curiosity of yours and work to understand it. Even though my talk is about understanding our canine companions, the basis of it is digging deeper into a topic I was curious about. Always remember that. At the start of this talk, I explained how my dog and all dogs are able to read our emotions. And after all this research, I found out that my dog is able to read my emotions due to his evolution, his heightened emotional sensitivity, and his close bond to me. And because he's my best friend. This ability extends to your dogs as well, if you have one. After you leave this event, if you have a dog, see if you can notice anything I just talked about. I promise you, you will. And most importantly, just remember, dogs do a lot more than you think, understand you better than you know, and love you unconditionally, because you're their whole world. Thank you.